Number 3, why knowing about God can come from what others have told you about him, but knowing God is a product of personal intimacy with him. This is it. Job said it like this in Job 42 verse 5. He said, I've heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see thee. You can hear about Reverend George or Dr. K or Pastor Ajiboye. You can hear about them by the hearing of the ear. It's a different thing. He said, but now my eyes see thee. So we can, knowing about someone is something somebody can tell you. Oh, he is this. Oh, he is this. Oh, he is this. But when you know God, you encounter him. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, we all with open faces, beholding as the glory in the mirror, the glory of the Lord, we are changed from one level of glory to another level of glory as by the Spirit of the Lord. Number 4, knowledge about God is usually stored in the head. Knowledge about God is stored in the head. The knowledge of who God is stored in the heart. It is in the heart. It becomes part of your being. But knowledge about God is head knowledge. I know about him. You can roll out the information. But at times when they said, you know God, you just say, It's deep in the heart. It's not something about the head. It's that if they ask me, are you a man? I'll say, which means I know that I know that I know that I know that I'm a man. Not that I'm a man now. I'm a man now. If you see someone who's trying to, repetition, they claim he's something, the revelation is not yet in his heart. And it's important for us to know. There's a difference between knowing about God or knowing God himself. Number 5, you can know about God and it will not change your lifestyle. That is why when you see a Christian say, I'm born again, and you still see him doing certain things and he says, I don't see anything wrong with it. Oh yes, he knows about God, but he has never known God. If he knows God, he knows a purer eyes than to behold iniquity and cannot look at evil. When a person knows God, his life is transformed. He is completely changed. He is delivered, is changed. So any knowing about, there are so many professors of theology who are smoking and drinking all over the places. They know about God, their head is educated. There are so many theologians. And when they tell you things, you begin to imagine, are these people saved? Now they know about him. They are PhD in New Testament. They are PhD in biblical literature. But they don't know God. Because if they know God, it will have changed their lives. The Bible says, wherefore if any man be in Christ, a new creature, all things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. I was talking in a particular place and I was telling about an encounter, a vision that I had so many years ago as a bachelor in my house. There was a knock on the door of my house and I said, come in. If you are good looking, that's what I said. And Jesus walked right through that door. Hi. When he walked right through the door, I was full of awe. I was full of reverence. I just fell on my knees, I didn't know whether I should prostrate in the African way or I should kneel down or I should just hold him. I didn't know what to do. So I was talking about it in church one day and I was asking people, what would you have done if it was you? One man said, I would have just stand up and give him a handshake. I said, you know about God. You don't know God. You don't know God. You know about God. In God's presence. In God's presence. Apostle Paul says we felt that we're like dead men when the glory of God was manifest. So when you know about God, it may not have changed your life. You can still be coming to church and be dishonest. You can still be coming to church and be lying. You can be coming to God and be deceptive. You may have a form of godliness but deny the power. You can go through the motions, but in your heart there is no total transformation. Wherefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. Behold. You see, it's one thing nowadays, you see people come to the altar, you see them laugh, And 3 years later, they are members of the church. And you still see that you're having to beg them to pray. You're having to encourage them to read the Bible. You're having to teach them to be early to church. And you begin to ask yourself, do these people really have the Spirit of Christ? After so long of being in the ministry at times, I've dealt with some ministers of the gospel and I ask myself, is this man born again? He knows about God. I mean, he can quote scripture like a parrot that is well taught. Can quote scriptures too. But you cannot see any visible alteration. He is still who he used to be. I call them saintly sinners. I preached a message years ago, saintly sinners. Outward form, but inward is full of dead men's bone. There's a difference between knowing God and knowing about God. Knowing about God is something that anybody can claim. But knowing God comes to an effort more than the ordinary. It comes to fellowship, spending time. It comes to drawing close. It comes to face-to-face interaction. It comes to absorbing his presence into your being. There's a difference between knowing about God and knowing God. Number 16. While our knowledge of God may be subject to inaccuracies, because we may have our own opinion or ideas, but if someone knows God, it is based on who God says he is. You know, at times some people stand up and say, God said this to them. I'll tell the president, he didn't say that. He doesn't speak like that. You know, when you know someone, you know how they speak. You know, Nigeria, because we are just coming out of political era now, and people give prophecy. God told me that so and so will win. God told me so and so will die. Immediately I said, that's not God. You know, so when you know about God, I mean, it may be subject to inaccuracies. Those people have an idea about God. But as to who God is, he doesn't speak like that. Someone asked me, who is going to win? I said, whoever God believes is best for the country. That's it. He said, how do you know that? I said, well, God rules in the affairs of men. You know, he rules in the... It's not who can rig most. If you want to rig and God does not make it possible, there has been an election where a man won and he died the next day. And he was not sworn in. I mean, so if he rules in the affairs of men, you and I need to be rest assured that he is in charge of what he's doing. Remember, I'm talking about how to tap, as it were, into the glory that is ahead. How can I tap into it? How can I tap into the glory that is ahead? Is it by knowing about God or by knowing God? Now, there are blessings that come from someone who knows God. There are blessings that come from someone who knows God. And I'll just give you a few here. Knowing God destroys the fear of man. You see, anyone who is serving God and is still afraid of man does not know God. Proverbs 29:25. The fear of man bringeth a snare. You cannot accommodate the fear of man with the fear of God. If you fear God absolutely, you lose complete fear for man. You will lose complete fear. Isaiah 51 verse 12 tells us this. And you find this in Deuteronomy chapter 1:17. He said, who are you to be afraid of the face of man? When you see David, he was completely fearless about Goliath. You see, when people fear God, Daniel, look at, he was completely fearless about the lion's den. The 3 Hebrew children had no fear at all about the fiery furnace. When someone knows God, it's something you can prove. How? It destroys the fear of man. To what extent do you fear man? Some people say, I can't tell people, I want to build a house. Yeah, you don't know God. You think man can stop what God wants to do? I mean, it's because you don't know him. You don't know him. You worship, you know not what you worship. If you get to the place where you no longer fear man, then you know God. The fear of the not knowing God destroys the fear of man. When you see people, look at the apostles. They had walked with Jesus for 3.5 years. They stood before the Sanhedrin. These were ignorant and unlearned men, but they were totally fearless. If you stand before to defend your faith and you are still afraid, and you don't know God yet. I mean, Job said, I know my Redeemer liveth. And even this body, even worms eat it. I know in this same body I will see God. When you know God, it destroys your fear. I'm giving you this so that you can gauge yourself, to assess yourself. Do I really know God? I live in a community known as Ilorin. 3 out of every 5 persons is a Muslim. Ilorin has the second largest sub-Saharan African mosque. And the people there are hostile. And they are not, you see, but the point is this. I have come to a point where there is absolutely no fear. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, I am with you. Be not dismayed, I'm your God. I will help you, I will strengthen you, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. Knowing God destroys the fear of man. Destroys. When I look at Daniel, the 3 Hebrew children, they were 17-year-old people, between 17 and 21. And they were speaking to the greatest king. They were speaking concerning the fear of man. They told them not to pray. That was exactly what they did. They had lost the fear of man. Until you are no longer afraid of what will man say, what will man think. And if I do this now as a pastor, what will people think? And if I dress like this, what will be people's idea? And if I don't talk the way everybody is talking, well, if you are still like that, you don't know God. You are worshiping him, but you don't know him yet. Number 2, knowing God destroys our fear of the future tomorrow. It destroys our fear of tomorrow. Our fear of the future. Another fear that people have, apart from the fear of man, is the fear of tomorrow. What does tomorrow hold? Now, when you know God, you are not fearful of tomorrow because the God you serve is the one who holds tomorrow. The future is never something that scares you because you know better shall be your end than the beginning. You know, Job chapter 8 verse 7 says, though your beginning was small, your latter end should they increase. I mean, when I started out my Christian race, I discovered one of the fears I had was about tomorrow. When I went to the ministry, I had fear of tomorrow. When I started having children, I had fear of tomorrow. When we started ministry, we were afraid of tomorrow. What if all the people leave? What if ministry does not work the way it was going to work? What if we can't pay for the building? What if we can't? I mean, that was the fear. But you see, as I matured and got close to God, I lost fear about the future because I know he's the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. Psalm 37 verse 37 says, mark the upright man, the end of that man shall be peace. Psalm 48 verse 14, for this God is a God and will be a guide from now even unto death. Deuteronomy 33:25 says, as your day is, so shall be your strength. Do you fear tomorrow? Are you afraid of the future? One man married and he came to me and he was saying, he said, after I've married, he said, I'm bothered, I'm worried. What if I lose my job? What if I'm infirmed? What if I don't succeed in marriage? I said, there is no need for that. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He is the one who was, he's the one who is, he's the one who is to come. And he does not change. Malachi 3:6, I'm the Lord, I don't change. You know, Jesus Christ is the same today, tomorrow, and forevermore. How do I know? I know God. Number 1, you lose the fear of man. Number 2, you lose the fear of tomorrow. Number 3, knowing God destroys our fear of the devil. There are people who can do some things because they fear the devil. I mean, there is a fear subtly entertained by many. To hear what some people have to say is to think the devil has taken over everything and is now the one running the show. People are afraid of the devil in a sort of way. I won't let the devil. I won't let the devil. I won't let the devil. You are so conscious of the devil, you are not even conscious of God. The devil did not say, I will be with you. The devil is an angel and is a fallen being. He's not in every place in the same way God is in every place. The Bible said the eye of the Lord is in every place, beholding the good and the evil. And you know, when you really know God, you lose the fear of Satan. You know, Luke 10:19, he said, I have given you authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions and all the powers of the enemy, and nothing shall bother. I remember I was the ministers, and we were going to pass through a cemetery. We were going to drive through a cemetery. It was about 2 a.m. We were going to drive through a cemetery in the night. We are going somewhere, and it's necessary for us to pass through the cemetery. And I was like, everybody just kept quiet. Everybody else kept quiet. And I kept talking, and I looked at her. I said, hope nothing. Everybody was still quiet. Then I packed. Then they shouted, let's go now. You know, and I said to them, I said, these are people who when they were alive, cannot even overturn me. Now that they are even dead, what do you think they can do to me? Then I packed and I entered into the cemetery. I said, even when I was in the world and I was in the occult, I come to the cemetery in the night. I had no fear, you know, but now that I'm a child of God, then why am I born again? If this born again thing does not save us from the devil, then it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. The Bible says in Isaiah 54:17, it says, no weapon fashioned against me shall prosper. The devil will orchestrate what we orchestrate. Surely they will gather together, but not by God. Whosoever gather together against you will fall for your sake. Associate yourself with you people, it shall be broken in pieces. Take yourself together, it will come to naught. Speak the word, it will not stand. For God is with us. How do I know that I know God? You lose the fear of people. You lose the fear of the future and tomorrow. Then you completely lose the fear of Satan. You don't make contingency arrangement for the devil. The Bible said neither give place, Ephesians 4:27. Neither give place to the devil. 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 11. Let's say that you have an advantage of us. We are not ignorant of his devices. So many times, some people, even in their planning, you see that they make place for the devil. They say, if this does not work, then that's one. Now, whatever frustrates this one will frustrate that one too. So that is why many times they fail at many things that they shouldn't fail at. So number 3 evidence that you know God destroys our fear of the devil. Absolutely. Destroy our fear of the devil. For as long as the children were partakers of flesh and blood, Jesus Christ also took what of same, that he through death may destroy him that has the power of death and deliver us who all our lives have been in bondage because we fear. They that know their God shall be strong. And whatever strength you have is greater. 1 John 4:4, you have got little children and overcome them, for greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The devil is the God of this world, but greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. It's like a football. It's like a football in a swimming pool. I mean, what is inside the football keeps it afloat, no matter the amount of water that surrounds it. Number 4, because of time, knowing God destroys helps to keep us calm. Number 4, knowing God helps to keep us calm or at peace in the face of whatsoever. Keep us calm and at peace in the face of whatsoever. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. You know, at times when people talk about various things, climatic issues, when you fly in the aircraft and this happens, or when you go to a place that's a war zone and this happens, or when you are living in a time like those of us who live in the UK and they are going through Brexit and there are so many uncertainties in the air, the people who know God are bam. They are calm. Look at the way Jesus was calm inside that boat in Mark chapter 4. As the storms were raging, the apostles were losing their head. He was asleep on a pillow. How can you sleep through this cacophony? Because it's Jesus. And when Christ is in you, that's the way he calms you. That is the way you feel when he is in you. When you know him, that is where he calms you. I remember the song I heard years ago which says, with Jesus in my vessel, we will smite the storm. You will keep calm. You'll be so calm. You look at the way Jesus was before the high priest. They were asking questions, he didn't even answer. He was so cool, calm, and collected. I remember June 20, 2002, when 400 assistants came to my house, and they pointed a gun in my face and showed me a picture of mine. They said, is this you? I said, yes. They say we are not celebrity hunters and we don't publish magazines. Someone just gave your picture to us and told us we should come and eliminate you. They said, follow us. So I followed calmly. And as I was in the car with them, they had my hand in handcuff and my feet in feet cuffs. And they looked at me and said, the man said, we've been doing this thing for 6 years. We have never had somebody so quiet and calm like you. They said, who are you? Now, what was it that made them realize I was so calm? I was not like them. I was not like every other person before them. You know, because you see, God in me, the knowing of God, give me a settlement. The Bible said in Psalm 112, verse 7, he shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. So you see someone who knows the Lord, he's calm and in peace. Though the earth be removed, though the mountains be carried away into the midst of the sea, he said there is a river, the streams whereof make it glad the city of our God. God is in the midst of her, therefore she shall not be moved. You know, our ministry was inaugurated in 1987. And after we inaugurated it, I made a mistake. I put some young Christians in some high positions. And before I knew what was happening, they started attacking me. And the climax of it was that one day they told me to do some things, and I would not do it that way because I felt that was not God was leading me to do. It was what man was asking me to do. And so they decided to fight me. My vice president, my director of administration, the chairman of the King board, and they gathered together. And one of them was so close to the police commissioner, and he went and told one of the officers, and said, look, I have gone to tell the police commissioner that they should demolish your church building because it's an illegal structure. Of course, it was an illegal structure. And so, of course it was. And so, that man came to my house. He was white all over. I said, what happened? He said, I've just heard that this man told me that I should tell you that they're going to demolish the illegal structure that our church building is. I said, he told you that? I said, yes. My wife was there. I said, please go and prepare me my delicacy, fresh fish with African swallow, with draw soup, and I'm going to eat. The man was still in the sitting room waiting for me to talk. I was sound asleep inside the room. He said, where is he? He said, my wife told him he's asleep. He said, so he can sleep through this. Why? Because you know God. He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. You know, all of those things don't move him. It's like a rock that has been founded. The Bible said in these last days, Luke 21:26, it says, men's hearts shall fail them for fear, for looking upon those things that are coming to pass in the world. It said, because the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. But for those who know God, Luke 21:28 says, when all these things begin to happen, lift up your heads and look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. When I looked at the people in the Bible who went through challenge, like Joseph, look at what Joseph went through. I mean, Joseph was disappointed by his brothers. They sold him to slavery. He wasn't bitter. He was calm. He was a slave in someone's house. That woman lied against him. They threw him into jail for 10 to 12 years. He was calm. He was in the prison. He had to interpret the chief butler's dream and the chief baker's dream. And he told the man, please remember me when it's good for you. The man did not remember him. He was calm. What was the source of all this? Joseph knew God. Some people will not be calm like this. Say, my brother. What my brother did to me. Oh, they messed me up. Oh, the man told me to pack out. When you know God. You know God, he won't forsake you. He won't abandon you. Even if everybody else says, I'm no longer interested. Your knowledge of God is such that will keep you strong and solid, established and grounded. So many years, you know, when I look back at what the counsel I was given, that I should know God have given to me, I have appreciated it as a counsel that came in the early stages of my Christian life. Let me say this to you, you need to know God yourself. Job 36:26, he said, God is great, yet we have not known him. Jeremiah 9:23-24, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, let not the rich man glory in his riches, don't let the strong man glory in his strength, but let him that glorieth in this, that he knoweth and understandeth me. Know God for yourself. Know God for yourself. Don't depend on something someone said. Don't depend on an introduction someone made. For example, when the pastor came up, he said, oh, Dr. K introduced me to him. Now, it's not left to him to take it to the next level. It's not left to him to take advantage of that opportunity to a level and a degree that is more than the knowledge he has been given. He now needs to develop his own personal intimacy. There are some people that are introduced to me by people, but I'm closer to the people who I was introduced to now than I am to the people who introduced. Many people introduce people to God, bring them to church, answer the altar call, but today they know God more than the people that introduced them. The glory is always there for you to tap into. It's there potentially. If you yearn for it, if you long for it, if you make the necessary effort, you will become a partaker. According as divine power has given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, whereby are given unto us exceedingly great and precious promises, that by these promises we become partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that's the world through lust. So it's important for us to move on to the next level. Quickly, because of time here. The 15, knowing God helps you to keep calm. Then knowing God helps us to better easily be able to please him. Somebody said, this person is too difficult to please. You know why? If you know him, it's very easy to please. One woman was telling me, my husband is so difficult, so impossible. I said, you don't know him. He's one of the easiest. He's a low-maintenance husband. But the problem is, you have never been intimate enough. Intimacy does not always mean going to bed. Intimacy has to do with communication, fellowship, and being in constant touch with each other. It helps us to be able to please God. Paul told the Colossians, Thessalonian Christians, he said in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 1, he said, we have taught you how you ought to walk and please God. Let me say this to you and listen carefully to me. One of the easiest person to please is God if you know him. Little acts of obedience make God happy. Proverbs 16:7. When a man's way please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. I have made pleasing God the most important point of my life. And this is because I know that it's not difficult to please. God is not difficult to please if you know him. How many of you know that the people you know, they are not difficult to please? Little things, greetings, a text, a phone call. At times it's all you need to do for someone to be pleased. When you know God, it will be so easy to help you to better easily please him. Knowing him reveals to us what he likes and what he does not like. When you know someone, when you know God, for example, I know one thing God does not like is unbelief. Unbelief made him unhappy. When Christ was here, look at the way he responded to unbelief. Look at the way he responded to doubt. Look at the way he responded to little faith. Look at the way he responded to irreverence. Look at the way he responded to being impatient. When you know someone, you are better easily able to please him. Jesus said it in John 8:27. He said, my Father who sent me is always with me, and have not left me alone. Why? Because I do always those things that are well pleasing in his sight. Well, you know someone, you please him easily. One of the young men who is working with me now in the office, he said, when I came to this ministry and you allocated me to be your special assistant in your office, he said, I said, I'm finished. He said, but after getting to know you first, he said, I told him, when he came, I said, don't get to do the work, know me first. I told the young man who was going to marry my daughter, I said, for you to marry my daughter and enjoy me, you marry me first. I said, once you marry me and you know me, I mean, you and my daughter, you'll always do things that are well. And since the day they have been married, I have never had the slightest reason to be unhappy with him. Why? He married me first. He studied me. He knew my priorities. He knows my manner of life. He knows the things that make me unhappy. He knows the things that make me happy. And with that, I mean, my daughter used to tell me, he said, Daddy, he said, my husband is a good husband. He said, you taught him. I said, I didn't teach him. He learned it. You know, there are certain things they teach you, there are things they don't teach you. You need to learn it yourself. They may not teach you faith, you learn faith. They may not teach you certain things, you learn it. They may not teach you giving, you learn it. Nobody sat me down, taught me how to give. This year, 2019, I'm giving 50% of my income as tithe. Nobody sat me down to teach me. I learned it. I had to study it. I discovered long ago that God always asks us for minimum, but you can always raise it up. You can always increase it. The minimum level of obedience is what God will seek from you. But you and I can raise the standard. The minimum level. You don't settle on the minimum and expect maximum blessing. You give $20, you say open the window of heaven. What about the person who gave 1,000? What should they open? The floodgates of heaven. Say, God, now open the window for what? $20. If we open the louvers, you should be happy. Not window. I was in one place one day and they collected the offering and the pastor said, pray for your offering. So I asked, I said, let's count the offering. Everything was $250. I said, we are not going to pray about this offering. You are going to give more. That's not what you are going to do. You know, you are trying to use prayer to cover up for your responsibility. When you know God, you know what? It becomes very easy for you to please Him. Because very easy. You know that pleasing God is not as difficult as you do think it is. John chapter 1, 1 John chapter 3, verse 22. It said, whatsoever we ask, we receive. Why? Because we keep His commandment and do those things that are well pleasing in His sight. When you make pleasing God a high priority, in the scheme of things, you will discover that God is not, when you know Him, you discover that it's not difficult to please. The young man said, he said, when they say you are difficult, He said, I can't see any difficulty. I said, because you started from knowing me. And when you got to know me, pleasing me became easy. Pleasing me became easy. One of the things I hate is for you to come to work late. So He knows that. So He comes at least 15 minutes early. One of the things I hate is for you to close before time. And now make sure He does not close before time. So whatever He asks me, I give Him. He said, but they say you are stingy. I said, they don't know me. If they know me, they will know there are certain things that unlock my pocket. When you are faithful, when you honor me, the Bible said that honor me will I honor. They that despise me, I will also lightly esteem. So it's important for us to know, when you know God, it's easy for you to please Him. And then number 6 is the one I want to amplify. Knowing Him helps us to recognize Him and differentiate Him from others. It helps us to recognize Him and differentiate Him from others. When I came to know the Lord, like every other person, we have assumptions. And I had assumptions. Until today, many of us have assumptions about marriage, assumptions about heaven. Some people assume that human beings are going to live in heaven forever. It's an assumption. When God made man, He put man on the earth, and the plan has not changed. We are going to go to heaven, yes, for a period of 7 years thereabout. That is after the rapture.